Welcome back to the channel, 12-Step Guide with Troy O. Today we're going to complete the Alcoholics Anonymous, Step 4, Now About Sex, Column 5. So we're going to complete the Now About Sex list. And this is going to be page 81 in the original book, or it might be page 67 or 68 in a newer book. So what do we hope to complete today? We're going to finish question 5. As discussed in an earlier one, we're also going to visit what does working the steps look like from Bill's writing. We're going to define the word ideal. And the reason we're going to do that is because Bill's going to use it several times in today's reading. I want to define the word meditation. It's going to come up today. And I want to visit Joe and Charlie. As you know, if you've watched previous recordings, it was year 8 and 9 that I was exposed to the Joe and Charlie tapes, and they really cleared up a lot of questions for me about the big book. Answered a lot of questions. They got me where I am today on this information. In 98, I wrote books clearing up the 12-step message. I wrote a 12-step guide. And I want to visit that stuff today because in both cases, Joe and Charlie presented some work, and I think they got column 1 wrong as far as what Bill had intended. In addition, I got column 1 wrong, I believe. In both cases, we started out with whom had we hurt? And how did this happen? I think in both cases we got lost in the fear list. After column 2, it fell apart, causing us to think for ourselves, which is always a good thing. But in this case, Bill had an opportunity, I think, later in the step book to complete it. You'll see it in the fear list. And I believe, if that's accurate, I believe it is, it was excellent work from him. It wasn't till 13 years later. It didn't exist in the big book. And I believe once I uncovered that and was able to re-find Bill's trail, I better realized the intended nature of this particular chapter. I believe that this is God's intended work. And if I'm right, 90 years later, we're just finally getting this together in the manner intended by, I believe, God. Certainly, Bill did his best, but my goodness, the work, his head must have been just swelled trying to get this on paper. And it's not the only area. Step 6, there was gaping holes in the big book. And we'll get into that. And Bill, again, had an opportunity 13 years later to add more information. So why am I offering this? Why am I offering this information, my thinking? Because if 90 years have gone by, and I'm correct in the sense that we're just catching on to a 4th-step message that really carries in its original format intended, we're just getting started. And if you don't agree with me, then that's all right. Know where you disagree. If it goes in a different direction, know where that goes and be able to explain that. That's my message. If I give you all the thinking and the work that I did, and I'll show you stuff along the way that I did, you can better understand the value. Because recovery is a real thing, and we can have it. So I'm going to get started today. We're going to recap the questions first. So we reviewed our own conduct over the years past. We know this is our own sex conduct. That would be column 1. And again, I started in where it's actually, I believe, is column 3, and we're going to get into that in a slight bit more. I'm going to back that up. So column 2, where had we been selfish, dishonest, or inconsiderate? And I'll show you, I had the questions right in 98, just disorganized, the firing order, if you will, automotive engine equation. So then, whom had we hurt is column 3. So why not start with whom had we hurt? If you start with whom had you hurt, let's see, oh, who did I hurt? Well, this one was just a one night stand. This one was just a fling. Or this one was just, by the time you justify it all out, there's maybe nobody left on the list. Whereas if you first start with listing everyone you've ever had sex with, that's a different question. And so let's see if I can back that up here pretty quick. So column 4, did we unjustifiably arouse jealousy, suspicion, or bitterness? And that was the last video so I've done videos on this. If you're just starting here today, there's a lot you've missed. Go back and start either at the beginning of step 4 or at the very beginning. And now here's today's question. Where were we at fault? What should we have done instead? So that's today's question. Where were we at fault? Well, that's step 8. So before we go any further, let's understand we're doing step 4, and that's the platform to where we begin step 8. There's an idea about how you're working, the steps, the working together. But we're going to visit that even deeper. So what is Bill? Now we're going to read the rest of it and then come back to it. And I'm going to do some interpretation along the way also. Because in an AA meeting, we would have buzzed right through this, and this would have mostly gone right over our heads. Or at least it did for me, and I recall plenty of others that didn't seem to get this level of detail. So anyway, we know that we are getting this down on paper because next Bill says, so what should we have done instead? We got this all down on paper and looked at it. So we know this is intended to be written down. In this way, we tried to shape a sane and sound ideal. There's that word ideal. The sane and sound ideal for our future sex life. We subjected each relation to this test. Was it selfish or not? We subjected each relation to this test. Not whom had we harmed, everybody. There's column 1 and column 2. So before I go any further, though, with the reading, I think it's helpful to advance understand some things so that it isn't missed when we're reading. So we know the question, where were we at fault? We know that's step 8. We know up in step 8, the first thing it says is you made your list when you took inventory. In step 4, we'd covered that in earlier videos. And what should we have done instead? Well, there's an interesting question. What should we have done instead? I want you to understand that this question speaks to our past and our future. That's important information. Track the energy. The energy's going somewhere. So, what does working the steps look like? Well, we know the step 4 moral inventory that we're doing. We just visited the step 8. That's the harms done others list. But we're also going to, in this reading, visit step 9, making direct amends. We're going to visit step 11, meditation. We're going to visit step 12, working with others or carrying the message to others in this reading right now. And these are all going to work together. They're not independent. It's not one step at a time. These things are designed to work together. Track the energy. We're going to keep coming back to that. So we touched on the word ideal. Let's visit that because he mentions it several times. And if Bill mentions the same word several times, you know he really means business, because he doesn't like to use the same word twice if he can help it. So, an ideal: to envision a better future version after reviewing past sex behavior results. So that's that question: what might we have done differently? So another way of understanding ideal: to picture in your mind the best possible alternative outcome of sexual behavior. And another, it's a model to strive for in regard to your future sex life. And we're going to harp on the third one as we read now. That'll be the one I'll keep coming back to: a model to strive for in regard to your future sex life. So, how about a shot at defining meditation? I'm going to try my luck here. There's a whole lot of, I just want to give you the simplest concepts, regardless of your understanding of God, whatever the higher power is that you reasoned out in step 2. I'm going to try to include everyone. So, meditation. So look, maybe your best efforts got you mentally, physically, emotionally, or spiritually drunk or altered, or making bad decisions and get yourself screwed up, even hurting others or yourself. What I'm talking about here, that awake in the moment part of us spearheading our progress, that what you're seeing right here that I'm coming at you with, this voice is thinking, this in the moment stuff here. So what are we going to do? We voluntarily step aside and allow our conscious and subconscious to communicate. That's what we're going to do. That's meditation. That's a piece of meditation and a basic understanding. This part's going to step aside. We are going to be vaguely aware of it, and we're going to monitor it. We're going to monitor this communication between our conscious and subconscious. We're not sleeping, but we're not fully awake. It's a semi-conscious meditation. It's a deep meditation. There's different ones. Can be a fully conscious meditation, and there's others, and you can get plenty of people out there can teach you about meditation. I just needed some sort of a concept to be able to come back to with you. So we settle down, put ourselves in some sort of state of mind where we're not sleeping, we're not awake, we're easing back and just almost sleeping, but we're not sleeping. We're aware of what's happening, and let the subconscious and the conscious communicate with each other. We got to sort some stuff out, and you might come out of it. Sometimes your brain might be so wired up you can't get there. Other times, wow, you really know you got there. You may come out of it like doesn't feel like anything happened. Things are happening. So anyway, meditation. In the last video, I was doing some whining about stuff coming up from 40 years ago. Well, what's the difference from me or somebody that drank 30 or 40 years? Because I've been sober 38 years. So what about someone else? Maybe they're 6 months sober doing the steps here. That's the hope. And maybe they have stuff coming up. What's the difference? In the beginning of step 4, you're looking to address the most pressing issues. That's for certain. It's likely other stuff will arise later in your recovery. For me, some of the stuff I was whining about likely would have been more pressing issues for me had I had more than one brain cell firing back then. I was pretty far gone. I drank all the brain cells away. And I'm going to get into that a slight bit more in our example list. But in all cases, we're going to follow the steps. 38 years sober, just getting sober. In all cases, we're just going to follow the steps. Bill's going to visit this stuff in step up in step 8 and 9. There's a way, but for now, I mean, the simplest way. What's he say? If a situation opportunity arises, maybe you might make the amend, but we're not there yet. I just wanted to just touch on that. Because I don't want to throw anybody off with, my bitching about that stuff. I'm going to follow the same path you are. It's just angry that this stuff wasn't available to me. I didn't understand it. Nobody else seemed to. And so there was a cost to me. So I hope that was helpful. So anyway, let's come on back and start that reading so we understand our question. This is column 5 again. Where were we at fault? What should we have done instead? And again, that's step 8. We got this all down on paper and looked at it. In this way, we try to shape a sane, now back at step 2, the insanity, sanity stuff, right? A sane and sound ideal for our future sex life. This is about our future sex life. Now, this question, attract the energy, it's going somewhere. It's not just about the past, it's about the future too. Where are we going with it? This a model to strive for in regard to your future sex life. So we're striving for a model to be a better person. We're not just doing this to wade through the past. We ask God to mold our ideals, there's that word again, and help us to live up to them. We remembered always that our sex powers were God-given and therefore good, neither to be used lightly or selfishly, nor to be despised and loathed. So he's saying we were born with this stuff, these tools to procreate and to love. These are important tools. They're important like the hand, your arms, your nose, everything. Because we distort them and get all screwed up, or some people might misuse them or struggle with them, they were built into us. They're a part of us. And Bill perceives them as generally a good thing, unless we misuse it. Whatever our ideal turns out to be, that model for the future, we must be willing to grow toward it. So we're producing a model to grow toward by reasoning out what happened from the past. We must be willing. So that word willing, we're developing willingness over time here. We're starting early in step 4 to develop the willingness. We're going to work on that more in step 8. So because there's a little piece of information here. We must be willing to make amends where we have done harm. Look at that, step 9. So he's visiting step 9 right here, developing willingness, more of that, working the steps. We're working towards step 9 here. We're beginning to understand that. But here's some other piece of information. Let's be careful right now while we're just getting to understand stuff, provided that we do not bring about still more harm in so doing. So there's a reason why, and I'm not talking about something imminent that has to be addressed. Oh, don't deal with it. Look at, if something's imminent, it has to be addressed, deal with it. But this stuff that's gone on in the past that we're working up to understanding and understanding the amends, we're going to make our list here, talk it over with our sponsor, understand it ourselves, clarify it more in step 8, and then we're going to be much more informed and positioned to figure out who and what and how it happened, what we might say, if it's a good idea to say it. There's a whole lot going on in the future we're not trying to necessarily achieve right now. In other words, we treat sex as we would any other problem. In meditation, in meditation, well, now that's step 11. But we're only on step 4. What are we doing talking about step 11, much less we're talking about step 8, and we're talking about step 9, and we're talking about now step 11. This is working the steps, track the energy. In meditation, we ask God what we should do about each specific matter. The right answer will come if we want it. So, back to step 2. I provided you a basic understanding of meditation, regardless of your belief system, so you can sit with this stuff, try to better understand it. Maybe you can introduce God into this equation. Maybe you can't. That's not up for me to decide. That's up for you to decide. What I want you to grasp here is that these steps are intended to be worked together. You're combining them. It's not one step at a time. It's not stay on step 1 or one step a year. The right answer will come if we want it. So we work at this. We've developed this. We've talked it over with a sponsor, or even now developing it. Things come up. You can go into meditation, try to understand it, contemplate it while you're writing out your lists. God alone can judge our sex situation. Well, hallelujah, if you don't believe in God, right? We're going to get to that in a minute, regardless of your belief system and your step 2. Bill believes God alone can judge our sex situation. Well, how might God go about helping us understand a few things? How might He manifest His communication to us? How about in the form of guilt or shame, alcoholism, drug addiction, instability, bad behavior? You get any idea? So God has ways to communicate with you, whatever your definition of that is, the higher power. So in addition to that, though, counsel with persons is often desirable. So a sponsor or a friend or somebody that you can talk with, a counselor, clergy, spiritual advisor. But we let God be the final judge. Sex is a very deep issue, and everybody's got their different belief systems, but pay attention to what's happening inside of you. We realize that some people are as fanatical about sex as others are loose. We avoid hysterical thinking or advice. So there's some guidelines here. We don't just race out and get everybody's opinion and just run with that. We have to be careful in this area. And there's a way to do so. Suppose we fall short on the chosen ideal and stumble. So that model to strive for in regard to your future sex life. And a model for other areas too. It's not just for your sex life, it can be used in other areas. But suppose that. Does this mean we're going to get drunk? Some people tell us so. Some people say, yeah, you'll get drunk. But that is only a half truth. It depends on us and our motives. So, what do we mean by that? Well, if the motive or behavior was to be selfish, dishonest, and inconsiderate, yeah, you might get drunk again. But if we are sorry for what we have done and have the honest desire to let God take us to better things, to pay attention to how we feel, and to move in a better direction based on our model, We believe we will be forgiven and will have learned our lesson. If we are not sorry and our conduct continues to harm others, me first and screw everybody else, we are quite sure to drink. We are not theorizing. These are facts out of our experience. So he's citing these are some facts. To sum up about sex, we earnestly pray for the right ideal. Again, the word ideal. For guidance in each questionable situation, for sanity, for sound thinking, and for the strength to do the right thing. Because this area in sex, boy, that's a tough one. If sex is very troublesome, what do? Track the energy. Sex is very troublesome. We throw ourselves the harder into helping others. That's step 12. So now, within this whole process, now we're even working step 12. This is working the steps. We think of their needs and work for them. It takes us out of ourselves. Selfless, not selfish, selfless. It quiets the imperious urge. That's a strong, powerful, overpowering now, right now, overpowering now. That sex desire, that can be pretty powerful because when to yield would mean heartache. So, what's he saying there? You having this strong, overpowering urge, and if you were to give control over to it, to yield to it, to this sex desire, bad things would follow. It would mean heartache. So, so that's the reading, and what I want to do now is contemplate the list. Also, let's look at the structure of the question. I've become sensitive to that sort of thing because it appears to be two separate questions. Yet the way Bill writes it, where were we at fault, comma, what should we have done instead? If there was a period instead of a comma, I would have placed it as two separate columns. For whatever reason, Bill has incorporated this question into one column. Maybe the evolution of what follows is a contributor. But I just wanted to visit that. So here's a completed 5-column examples, just a shot for you to try to understand something. It's just fictitious, but you can see column 5. Where were we at fault? What should we have done instead? So my example from back then, one of them was maybe I'd have read the tea leaves better. What should I have done instead? Well, at this point, done the friggin' steps back then so I could have got this stuff straightened out and not be begging this long into recovery. You get the idea. And so let's take say the husband, and we had some examples, or the sexless injured, the husband, and you can see across. So we're just going to right to column 5. So in this case, it would have been, where was she at fault? Lied, cheated. Maybe the question would have been, not cheated, been honest and sought guidance wherever it led. This, I want to have the cake and eat it too, Maybe you can't. And that's better than damaging others. Maybe that's the future model. Maybe it's better to not hurt others with our incessant sexual desires, for example. So let's use the example of the gay lover. So this basic example is, here's a guy, he's married to a wife, but he's off, picks up a gay lover. And so Where was he at fault? Well, he lied, he cheated, misrepresented. There's an extra pain to that. What might he have done instead? Got honest at the risk of an outcome not to his liking and not cheated. So, again, these are just basic examples to try to give you some direction. There's nothing perfect about this, but you get the idea. And at the end of this fourth step education, we will release a clean format of the whole process so that you can download it and use it for building your own step four or helping a sponsee. And here's an example of what I did in 98. Again, I had the 5 columns titled a slight bit differently. I had the importance in this of going top to bottom. The JSB you can see for jealousy, suspicion, or bitterness, and a reduction of selfish, dishonest, or inconsiderate, SH, D, or I. But again, starting out with who I hurt. See, Bill started out with a softball question of listing all your sex partners. It's much easier to start by listing all your sex partners. And then were you selfish, dishonest, or inconsiderate, where I jumped into what I did. And these are harder, more aggressive questions. And again, if you have the opportunity to filter it out in your head before you write it down, there's a lot that's going to be missed. I missed a lot. And I had an opportunity after writing the book to have these. I started a 12-step program to hear plenty of other fourth steps from people, to engage in it myself, to understand it better. It was good work, but Bill's work really delivers this format. There's a reason. In the energy flow afterwards, you can see it, it's going somewhere. And I just think it's very important to understand that. Uh, and so I had, did I arouse in column 3, the jealousy, suspicion, or bitterness, and then the 4 was selfish, dishonest, inconsiderate. But that jealousy, suspicion, or bitterness didn't carry well because it wasn't coming off of the heels of how I hurt. Given an opportunity to write it down, but then given an opportunity to look at it again in a different way, to question it. So this is the end of our sex conduct list. What you want to do now is collect up your 3 lists. We're going to go on to the next list now in step 4 in the next video. And we'll need these lists in order to do that. And better build on our 8th step inventory, because truly what is happening now is we're building step 8 within step 4. And this future development, using our past to shape our future, not just wallowing in the past. We're understanding ourselves, understanding how we behaved in various circumstances, whether the victim or the offender, how we might break cycles to this behavior, see ourselves for the first time, see others. We hopefully see now what it means to be working the steps, how these other steps were designed to help us work through these pieces. There's always a place to go with this. And the better we understand the format and its intended original purpose, and the better others do, when we go up and say, hey, I'm on step 8, or hey, I'm on step 6, or step whatever, they also understand it. Our sponsor, our sponsees. So knowing how you got here and where you're going from here is very important, I believe, in the process. Well, I look forward to moving on with the next video there. Thank you very much and have a nice day.
If you found this video helpful, please like and subscribe. Ring the bell to be notified when new content is added. Also, you can support the channel 12-Step Guide with Troyo by donating through PayPal to hsworldservice@yahoo.com. In Step 4, we are laying the groundwork and planting seeds for the 9th step promises. Those promises are: we are going to know a new freedom and a new happiness. We will not regret the past, nor wish to shut the door on it. We will comprehend the word serenity and know peace. No matter how far down the scale we have gone, we will see how our experience can benefit others. That feeling of uselessness and self-pity will disappear. We will lose interest in selfish things and gain interest in our fellows. Self-seeking will slip away. Our whole attitude and outlook upon life will change. Fear of people and of economic insecurity will leave us. We will intuitively know how to handle situations which used to baffle us. We will suddenly realize that God is doing for us what we could not do for ourselves. Keep moving forward. It's worth the effort,